Thank you to Sandfall Interactive for providing me the game to make this review possible. Expedition 33 is the latest RPG to hit the market in the already stacked RPG lineup of games, and it is developed by Sandfall Interactive and published by Clair Interactive. With indie titles becoming more and more mainstream, with smaller budgets outdoing major AAA studios nowadays, Sandfall decided, let's attempt something more bold to set the industry on fire. But did their efforts pay off, or were they just a little too overly ambitious for their own good? Only one way to find out, so let's go! Gameplay. A few months ago, I got the chance to try out Expedition 33 early, thanks to an opportunity that Sandfall Interactive gave me, and my early preview pretty much covered a demo worth of over 2 hours of solid gameplay that gave you an idea of the story, its characters, gameplay mechanics, and its overall world and map. Needless to say, I was extremely pleased with it upon my initial preview of it. From a graphics standpoint to its battle mechanics, its parrying, the music, it was all well done, and it's a title that you'd never thought would be made by around 30 people or so. That's how far indies have come nowadays, which I always said since day one of my content creation job when I got into this field. While everyone wants to hop into this field and focus on big name publishers, I instead for my first 2.5 years focused on building relationships with indie developers and their PR departments, because I always felt and still believe that the indie developers you see now or underestimate eventually become AAA juggernauts themselves. A case similar to the one that we have now with Expedition 33 would be Kenna Bridge of Spirits, which was another indie-developed title with the production value of a high-end AAA game, but it was simply fantastic. But hot on its trails, we now have Expedition 33 flexing its muscle with a mixture of fantasy RPG mixed with a little bit of sci-fi, with a story that immediately makes you start asking questions about things. Like, what is going on? Why do people only live to be a certain age and die, and how can it be stopped? And it does a good job of explaining all of this to you as time passes on through intense combat, high-stakes situations, and really good sense of pacing that never feels slowed down to a snail's crawl for exposition's sake like a lot of games do, and it doesn't go too fast to the point where it ends up feeling like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, where everything just ends up going batshit in the last 30 minutes of the game, to the point where you end up having a brain aneurysm like you're a perverted old man from an anime. In this regard, it's near perfection, but no-brainer moment, I do end up having issues with several things going forward that I'll address, but for the top of this review, the experience is a relatively positive one overall. Now if I can just be more positive on finding out what I want to eat today, literally spending so much time deciding what I want to eat that by the time I do figure it out, I don't want to eat anymore because I'm not hungry anymore. I can hear my brain screaming at me, "What do you want? What do you want?" In Expedition 33, the paintress hovers over everything, with a gigantic-like colossus seemingly mocking all residents daily, similar to the monolith in Planet of the Apes. Inscribed on this gigantic monument are seals of how long each member of the population will live to see the next day, and how long they have to live for in general, making it so that everyone knows the day in which they will die. There's really nothing scarier than knowing that fate in my opinion. Closest thing I can think of personally is having to endure playing E.T. on Atari game. Please no. However, there are still people in the world that wish to defy this fate and vow to decode the mystery behind the paintress. And so one after another, expeditions are sent on quests to uncover answers, and none return. That is, until the creation of Expedition 33. I'm not sure what to say about the story without being overly spoilery, because there's just so much to unwrap with a game that blends sci-fi with horror to fantasy so much that you want to focus more on the storytelling aspect than what you're made to do in the first place, which is fight with a unique style turn-based combat, which we'll get to. I think what really gets me about the story in this game is the constant feeling of impending doom, with the numbers in this case being 33, meaning that your lifespan will be till you're 33 years old and then you die. And then each preceding year, the number drops again. It gives you a sense of anxiety as you explore the game's world, knowing that pretty much no one in your party and expedition has plot armor to save them, because should you fail, that's it, you're dead, no do-overs. You and your friends are dead, game over! While I love the story and its twists and turns, its drama and borderline heartbreaking scenes at times, for me, I was truly the most engaged during the game's combat due to the dynamic structure. Aw man, I can never find any good gaming deals. I don't want to pay $70 for every game? This sucks! Wait, what is that?
Introducing Green Man Gaming, your #1 source for old school games dating back to the 80s and 90s, and even all the latest and greatest hits like Doom, The Dark Ages, or Oblivion Remastered. Wherever your tastes lie for PC gaming, Green Man Gaming has you covered. From Bethesda to Rockstar Games to PlayStation, Sega, Square Enix, and more, the choices are endless.
Oh wow, that sounds...
So head on over to
wait,
Green
she's
Man
not done
Gaming
yet.
using the affiliate link down below to browse all games by publisher, PC games, on-sale titles, upcoming games. Level up with XP with Green Man Gaming's loyalty program that offers you ways to earn even more discounts with every purchase made, including titles featured in this video.
Oh boy, I wonder if they have big rigs, cause I sure are winner.
We don't have big rigs! Just join the incredible online sensation that is Green Man Gaming to save yourself a fortune on all things gaming with the greatest discounts mankind has ever seen!
Oh, okay then. I'll buy this one, and done!
Wait, we actually had it?
Wait a minute. No we don't, you little... Rushing into an opponent and initiating your standard fight, but then learning, oh wait, there's a quick reaction parry and dodge system that if timed correctly, you'll be able to press the correct button, parry, then counterattack? Okay, that's pretty dang cool, and it feels amazing. During my preview, and even during this full release, I decided to fight whatever I could, even not being strong enough, because screw it, not like I learned my lesson in previous games prior where I got my ass kicked. Each enemy you encounter has different patterns and abilities to memorize as you attempt to counter them and parry, which makes each fight, even against stronger foes, a challenge that you'd never expect it to be, since RPGs nowadays, mainly turn-based, have become rather easy on the combat side. If you're confused by what I mean by the timing aspect of everything, then think of titles like Super Mario RPG, where all of your attacks are based off of an exact button input and timing, where you exploit enemies' weaknesses based off of perfectly timed dodges or rhythm-timed parries to counter with a strong attack. It feels fast-paced, unique, intense, and I can't think of any other RPG on the market like it. I'm in the middle of calling this game gorgeous, and at the same time thinking it looks a little funky at times. I'm definitely somewhere in the middle because at times this game looks absolutely stunning with its designs, environments, and animations, but then other parts of the game you definitely remember this is made by an indie studio, because after spending the last 8 years covering over 400 plus indie games, I begin to see a distinct pattern indie developers take with graphics and engine use, and I see a lot of it here, mainly in the latter half of the game. However, when the game is at its peak and best, you will not find another game by indie standards or even AAA standards that looks better than it in regards to the RPG market. I dare you to try to find one, because you can't pick Rebirth, because that's more action RPG, not turn-based. Exploring the game gives a very classic JRPG vibe of traversing old-school RPG overworld maps, which only modern-day equivalent I can think of is the recent release of Fantasian that has a similar idea on map structure. But this game's map sometimes lacks a ton of places to go and is pretty confined, so novelty does tend to wear off pretty quick, but remains great-looking nonetheless majority of the time to go alongside catchy battle music and fantastic character voice acting and overall soundtrack. It's still no Blue Dragon music though, just saying. Overall, at the end of the day, Expedition 33 ends up being a fantastic time that gives a breath of fresh air to the turn-based RPG market. But it's not without its flaws, with limited world map usage, difficulty spike that might have come a little too fast if you haven't stopped to grind a little bit, graphically going from gorgeous to just okay at random times, giving a jarring kick to immersion, etc, etc. But with addictive combat that flips the turn-based RPG genre on its head with parrying combo attacks, thrilling story that makes you feel anxiety, anger, sadness, banger soundtrack that will get stuck in your head, stellar voice acting, all of it adds up to one of the best RPGs of this generation, even with its flaws. And it's a no-brainer that if you're an old-school turn-based fan, or even a new one, you have to check this one out. Even if it's just on Game Pass, you won't regret it. So with all that having been said, my verdict is clear. Game and Chick says bye now.